I'm Rose, 29, and this happened on the day of my birthday. My sister Amelia looked me straight in the eye, tipped my cake onto the floor, and said, "If you want it so badly, eat it." The room went silent except for the soft thud of strawberries rolling under the table and someone's awkward laugh turning into a cough. I remember kneeling, the smell of buttercream in my hair, and the blur of phone cameras. Shame burns differently when it's recorded. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that birthday humiliation would be the last time she ever had power over me. I never imagined my 29th birthday would become my personal origin story, the day I finally stopped apologizing for existing in Amelia's shadow. We grew up in Bristol, small house, big feelings, nothing ever thrown out but grudges. Our mother, Linda, had a way of smoothing conflicts with a quick, "Be kind to your sister," which always somehow meant be small for your sister. Our father, Peter, wasn't unkind, just exhausted. The kind of man who always seemed to be paying off something, real or imagined. Amelia is older by 3 years and sharper by 3 decades. She glides through rooms like she owns the air. When we were little, she cut my hair while I slept because it didn't frame my face right. When we were teenagers, she accidentally forwarded my private poems to our class group chat and told me I should thank her for the exposure. I did not thank her. I learned to bake instead. Flour is honest. Yeast tells the truth. Caramel only lies if you stop watching. By the time I turned 29, I'd built a small following on my channel, Rose and Butter, where I told stories while I baked. I wasn't famous, but people wrote to tell me my pistachio shortbread reminded them of their grandmother, and that mattered. My best friend Hannah used to say, "Your recipes are soft armor, Rosie. You turn pain into pastries." She was the one who convinced me to throw a little party at our parents' house that Saturday night. "Your mother will be happy to host," she said, "and you can make your own cake, like a signature." I nodded and imagined strawberry sponge with whipped mascarpone, a ribbon of lemon curd as bright as a promise. The house filled up with cousins, neighbors, co-workers, people I hadn't seen since before lockdowns implied that we could pause messy families like we pause videos. Amelia arrived late, wearing white like it was her wedding day, with a bouquet of lilies that made the whole living room smell like a church. On her arm was Lucas, her flawless fiancé, the kind of man whose shoes never get scuffed. He shook my hand warmly and said, "We keep hearing about your bakes," and I tried, really tried, to believe the night would be gentle. When the moment came for the cake, Hannah carried it out like a crown. 10 candles flickered because 29 felt like too many, and my mother said 10 was symbolic. I can still see the cake. White sides with vertical scallops, a wreath of sugared strawberries, a gold R. Everyone sang. I closed my eyes on the dear Rose and felt 7 years old again, back when you could still believe a wish might fix the people you love. Then someone said, "Speech," and Amelia stepped forward with a smile that never, ever reached her eyes. She started sweet. She always does. Rose has always been creative, she said, drawing out the word like taffy. I remember when she tried to make macarons and turned the kitchen into a battlefield. Laughter. She's stubborn, but that's our Rosie. More laughter. I smiled because I was trained to, because girls like me are taught to laugh before anyone else does. Then the tone shifted. "But," she said, "let's be honest. Rose takes everything so seriously. Baking, feelings, birthdays. And sometimes she forgets to be grateful. Like when she borrowed money from me last year and never paid me back." My stomach dropped. Last year, Amelia insisted on helping me when I had to move out of my awful flat, and she paid the deposit for the new place on her card. I've been paying her back every month. I opened my mouth to say it, but she kept going. Over the room's hungry silence. "So tonight," she said, lifting the cake knife, "let's hope she remembers this moment, because gratitude is learned." And with a small practiced twist of the wrist, she slid the blade under the cake board, lifted and tipped. The cake teetered, tumbled, and met the wooden floor with a muffled collapse. Strawberries rolled like marbles. Someone gasped. Someone else laughed. I stood there, heat crawling up my throat. It wasn't just the cake. It was all the times she'd done something cruel and called it honesty. All the times my mother had said, "Let it go, Rose." And then Amelia looked at me, slow, cruel, tilted her head and said, "If you want it so badly, eat it." I heard a phone camera click. Maybe more than one. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I crouched, because it was either kneeling or falling. and collected strawberries into my palms like small red hearts that never learned better. I felt the frosting soak into my dress and I stood up. I said, "Excuse me," and walked to the bathroom where I sat on the edge of the tub and stared at my reflection. Buttercream in my hair made me look like a broke Marie Antoinette. Hannah found me first. She closed the door and leaned against it, eyes blazing. "We're leaving?" she said. I shook my head. "No, not yet. Rosie, she humiliated you. She taught me something." I wiped my face with a damp towel and tried to extract strawberries from my curls. She taught me exactly what I'm willing to burn. That night, after everyone left and I helped my mother scrape frosting off the floor while she murmured, "You know how she is," I packed a small bag and went home. I slept for 4 hours, the kind of sleep that feels like being stunned. When I woke, I made tea and opened my laptop. My channel folder sat there, neat little rectangles of stories and recipes. I opened a new document and titled it Boundaries. Then I called my bank. I'd been paying Amelia every month, just like we agreed. But she hadn't acknowledged any of it tonight. Had I misunderstood? The person at the bank confirmed 12 transfers of $200 each to Amelia Hart, a year's worth. I asked for statements. I asked to verify dates and amounts. Then, because something old and sour had risen in my throat, I went further. I pulled old messages with Amelia. The helpful sister texts. "I'll do the deposit for you," she'd sent. "It'll be our secret. Mom doesn't need to know you needed help." Our secret. Secrets are debts that earn interest. I planned for a week. This wasn't about a tantrum. It was about a pattern. I wrote a script for my next video and filmed it in 2 takes. Hands steady, voice soft. "Today we're making a lemon curd that refuses to break," I said to the camera. "Because sometimes you've got to hold your shape under heat." I didn't mention the cake on the floor. I didn't have to. The internet already had. Hannah tracked down 2 clips from the party. Someone had posted them to a private WhatsApp group, and private things tumble eventually into public places. In the muddy video, you can see Amelia's white dress like a glare. You can hear the word eat like a slap. We didn't post it, not yet. I wasn't after revenge that looked like chaos. I wanted the truth to land like a well-baked loaf, heavy enough to be undeniable. I met Lucas for coffee. I didn't tell Amelia. He suggested a place near the river with windows that turned the water into silver. He looked concerned. "Amelia told me you're sensitive," he began gently, and I almost laughed. "I'm precise," I said. "And I like receipts." I slid the bank statements across the table. "This is the money I've paid her back, monthly, for a year." He scanned the papers, brow furrowing. "She said you hadn't paid a penny. She said she shouldn't have to chase you. There's more." I opened another folder. "Do you know she has access to Mom's card? That she's been using it for extras?" I placed glossy photos of transactions, expensive spa, designer shoes, florist receipts that never arrived at Mom's door. Mom thinks she's helping Amelia with the wedding. But Mom's been skipping her own appointments to save. Lucas was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, it sounded like someone speaking through fog. "I'll talk to her." "Don't warn her," I said. My voice shook, but not from fear. "Watch, ask questions. See what she says when she doesn't know what you know?" I also met with my mother. I didn't want to. But Hannah said, "You can either light a candle or curse the dark." And I was tired of the dark. I went to Mom's kitchen on a Tuesday night with a grocery bag of lemons and my stack of papers. She put the kettle on the way mothers do when they don't know what to do. "I'm not here to make you choose," I said, laying out the statements. "I'm here to tell you what's true." She stared at the numbers as if they were a foreign language. Amelia said, "I know what she said." My hands were steady against the table. She said I never paid her back. She said I was ungrateful. You believe her because she tells the story first and loudest. But here is my story, written in amounts and dates. And here are the charges on your card. Did you authorize this spa? This boutique? These lilies every Friday? My mother covered her mouth. It wasn't that she didn't love me. It's just that love in our house wore earplugs when Amelia spoke. "I thought it was wedding expenses," she whispered. "Maybe some of it is," I said. "But weddings don't require a weekly luxury facial. Neither does loyalty. We didn't cry, not yet. We made lemon bars together because it gave our hands something to do, and because grief behaves around sugar." She sent a text to Amelia. "Dinner on Sunday. Family only." Amelia replied with a heart, then, "I'll bring a treat," I planned the table like a map. At one end, my father. At the other, my mother. On one side, me and Hannah. On the other, Lucas and Amelia. I made a cake, yes, a cake. The same strawberry sponge, but taller, cleaner, edges so sharp they could teach a lesson. I placed it on a sturdy board with a hidden bracket that had, quietly, been screwed to the table underneath. No more tipping. Amelia arrived in pale blue this time, sweetness incarnate. She kissed Mum's cheek and handed her a box. Macarons, she chirped, since Rose never mastered them. I smiled so nicely my molars touched. Dinner tasted like cautious words. Dad chatted about football. Mum nodded too much. Lucas barely ate. Amelia laughed brightly, too loudly, like a wind-up toy set to delight. When the plates were cleared, she clapped her hands. Shall we have Rose's cake? We know it's delicious, if it stays on the table. A flash of teeth. I stood, lifted the cake knife, and looked her in the eye. Before that, I said, and I slid my phone onto the table, screen up. With a touch, I played a voice memo I hadn't told anyone I'd recorded, Amelia's speech at my birthday. The words filled the room like smoke. Eat it, the laughter. My mother's gasp looked new, like she hadn't heard it properly before. I stopped the audio and opened a folder. I've been paying you back, Amelia, I said, sliding the statements to her like a dealer who knows the hand she's holding. 12 months. Every penny. So why did you tell everyone I hadn't? Why did you humiliate me? She blinked once, then smiled small. Oh, Rosie, you're always so dramatic. It was a joke. Jokes don't require bank statements, I said. I turned to my mother. And these are your charges. I placed the printouts gently, like I was handling something fragile. Did you authorize any of them? Mum didn't look at the papers. She looked at Amelia. Did you? For the first time that night, Amelia faltered. Mum, she began, soft and turned slightly childlike. You said I could use the card for wedding things. Weekly facials and shoes? Mum's voice didn't rise. It sharpened. You promised you'd pay me back, Amelia swallowed. I will. After the wedding? Then, almost reflexively, she reached for the cake stand. She slipped her fingers under the board and stopped. It didn't move. The bracket held. You won't tip this one, I said calmly. Not anymore. Lucas cleared his throat. Amelia, he said, gentle but not fuzzy. Have you been honest with me? About the money? About Rose? She turned to him, eyes wide and wet. Lucas, don't do this in front of them. Truth doesn't care where it sits, he replied. It was the first time I'd heard his voice sound like a boundary. What followed wasn't explosive so much as precise. Amelia tried 3 tactics. Minimize, it was just a joke. Deflect, Rose is always sensitive. And reverse victimhood. Everyone expects me to be perfect. But the room had shifted. Evidence is not a mood. My father, usually Switzerland, said quietly, You owe your sister an apology. Mum added, steady as a metronome, And you owe me a plan for repayment. I didn't want a public apology exactly. I wanted the story to tilt back toward truth. So I did what I do best. I told it, cleanly. I have 2 things to say, I began, looking at each of them. First, I will not be your wall anymore, Amelia. You don't get to throw your weight against me to feel tall. Second, I'm moving forward. Not away from you, from this family, but forward. I'm launching a series on my channel about boundaries and baking because I'm not the only person who's had sugar thrown in their face with a smile. Amelia scoffed. You're going to make content out of this? I'll change names, I said. I'll keep faces private, but yes. I'm going to talk about what cake on the floor teaches you about dignity. I'm going to make a recipe for a cake that doesn't tip. And I'm going to show how to build a life that doesn't either. Lucas exhaled slowly as if he'd been holding his breath for months. I need time, he told Amelia. I need to think about who we are to each other. Her mouth opened, then closed. She stared at the fixed cake board like it had betrayed her. We ate the cake. It tasted like strawberries and spine. No one flinched when a berry slipped off someone's fork. No one said the word eat like an order. After dessert, Amelia left early without hugging anyone. My mother washed plates with me in silence. Then she dried her hands and pulled me into a hug that was careful but real. I'm sorry, she said into my hair. I'm sorry I didn't see. I'm sorry I didn't listen. I believed her. The days after felt like walking out of a thick, familiar fog. Hannah helped me film the first episode of the new series. We called it Hold Your Shape, I looked straight into the camera and began, "Sometimes the people who should love you most ask you to swallow the mess they've made. Today, we bake a cake that refuses to fall apart, and we learn to be people who won't either." I didn't name Amelia. I didn't need to. The comments filled with women telling me their versions. A sister who cut their hair, a mother who compared, a partner who said joke when they meant cruel. I read everyone and cried in sections between takes, then wiped my face and measured flour. Grief and hope take turns. 2 weeks later, Amelia texted me. "Can we talk?" I almost ignored it. Then I thought about what resolution actually means, what it isn't. It isn't forgetting. It isn't smoothing. It's building something sturdy enough to stand on. I met her at a park where children shrieked and dogs believed in sticks. She looked smaller without the room. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, as if the words might evaporate if not released. "I shouldn't have done that." I was angry at me. I asked. "At you for always being liked," she snapped, then immediately softened. "That sounds ridiculous, but people are tender with you." "With me, they expect performance," I nodded. "I can't fix how you feel about yourself." "I know." She twisted her ring. "I'm paying Mum back. I've already sold the shoes." She tried a laugh that didn't land. Lucas asked for time. "That might not resolve." "I hope you both find what's honest," I said, and I meant it. We didn't hug. We didn't reenact childhood. But we agreed on something crucial. If she felt the urge to make a joke at my expense, she would leave the room. My mother joined my channel on the 3rd episode, Timid and Game. We made Victoria sponge and talked about the cost of looking away. My father commented from his office computer like a proud troll. "This is the good stuff." I pinned it. Months later, I hosted a live virtual class called Unfallable Cakes. I showed hundreds of viewers the hidden bracket under the board. I told them about securing your base. I told them about bracing the underside of your life, about quietly reinforcing places people might push. In the chat, hearts floated up like balloons tied to something solid. Here's what I learned. Revenge doesn't always look like grenades. Sometimes revenge looks like clear boundaries, tight accounts, a camera angled toward the truth. Sometimes it's a cake you can't tip and a voice you won't lower. I'm not a saint. I still picture the look on Amelia's face when the cake didn't move, and it satisfies something in me I don't need to apologize for. But I don't live there. I live here, in this kitchen, where strawberries roll but don't decide anything, where my hands smell like lemon zest and forward motion. On my 30th birthday a year later, Hannah threw me a surprise party. Real candles, real kindness. Mum brought flowers that smelled like gardens, not funerals. We cut the cake together and served it onto plates like small acts of trust. When I blew out the candles, I didn't wish for anyone to be different. I wished to remain myself. I looked into the camera I'd set up on the counter and said, "If you've ever been asked to eat your humiliation in front of people, listen. You get to stand up. You get to say no. You get to build a life where the cake stays on the table. You get to build a life where the cake stays on the table." And then we ate, from plates, with forks, like people who understand celebration. If this story resonated with you, even a little, like this video, so it reaches someone who needs it today. Subscribe for more true life stories baked with boundaries and share in the comments. Have you ever had to reinforce a part of your life so it couldn't be tipped over again? Your story might be the recipe someone else needs.